The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Armando from WSI ALM. Hope everyone's having a great morning. I just wanted to do a sound check quickly. I know that we've been having a few challenges with the sound in the past few weeks. I want to make sure that we can have a proper sound for our webinar today. If you can just type in the chat, you're okay, you can hear, everything is good, that'll be great. We'll wait for your feedback before we start. Okay, getting some responses. Excellent. So we will begin. It's October 29th. It's Tuesday, I guess the last Tuesday of the month. We have 2 more months before the end of the year, so we're definitely excited that we are continuously working with our IC partners in growing their business. So today we'll have Vinesh do a presentation on some of the topics that we discussed last week. We got a lot of feedback and requests in regards to expanding in some of the areas that we discussed specifically in the Google Webmaster Tools part. So we're going to be going a little bit more in depth with that tool. So if Vinesh, you want to join us here in Toronto, Canada, let's start.
Terrific. Great. Thanks, Armando. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I got a very polite reminder from one of the ICs. Be sure to hit the record button, Vinesh. Yep. We definitely hit the record button. I'm going to double check once again. Yes, it is recording. So we're all set. We got an exciting webinar ahead for all of you that have signed on for this edition of Launchpad. There is going to be a couple of repetitions from our previous webinar just because we were inundated with the questions and the requests that we got from our previous webinar. And the 2 sections that we will be repeating, well, not technically repeating because one of the sections wasn't really covered very well in our last webinar. So one of the sections is the 6 big changes that Google's made this year in 2013 that have really impacted their search landscape and how us as suppliers in the ICs are working out there with our prospects and our clients. So we'd be basically touching base again on that. And then the second aspect that we would be basically touching base on again would be the Google Webmaster Tools console. I believe we hadn't really covered that very well in our last session just because we ran out of time and there's a lot of information in the webinar that we were trying to disseminate. However, we've left a lot of time open for the Webmaster Tools console. I know, Kelly, you had mentioned specifically that you wanted us to cover that more extensively, so we'll try and do our best in this webinar. I see you're logged on, so great. All right, so let's begin. A couple of news items before we start. Again, our format for the Launchpad series is our latest news and articles. There's not a lot that's happened as far as the online marketing world for this week is concerned, which is good because it actually gives us a bit of time to cover up a couple of topics which I just mentioned were some topics of the interest for the ICs. So we'd be reviewing that quite extensively. We also have the Tool of the Week section. We'd be going through the Google Webmaster Tools console quite aggressively this week, extensively covering everything, all the information to the best of our ability. It's going to be sort of like an introductory session, but if you do want to go advanced and if you have questions, please feel free to shoot us an email and we can definitely engage one-on-one as far as your specific questions as far as the Webmaster Tools is concerned. And then we'll do our best to take on some questions in the webinar. Apologies to the ICs that we haven't gotten back to as far as questions are concerned. As you know, we hadn't recorded the previous webinars, so we lost out on responding back to some of the questions that the ICs had asked us. The best thing to do to get an answer is to just shoot us a quick email, either Armando at WSIALM.com or myself at info@WSIALM.com. Just shoot us the email with your question, and this way you're definitely covered if we miss out on the webinar. Great, jumping in. So this is really, really interesting. Google's testing out banner ads for branded queries right in their search results. So this is just the latest news that's come out. Search Engine Land reported this, I believe, a couple of days back. Huge, big impact, big news, because Google had sworn up and down that they would never display banner ads when it came to the main search results page. So this is the first time that they're actually moving away from what they claimed that they'd never ever do, and they're actually starting to display banner ads only for branded queries as of right now. It's a very small test that Google's doing with about 30 advertisers. There's advertisers like the Southwest Airlines, Virgin Atlantic, and then there's some other airlines that Google is testing this with, big brand names. So one of the users that actually reported this to Search Engine Land, and then they picked it up. They showed a screenshot and they put it up on their news items. So they definitely got the scoop. They were the first online medium to report this. So what's happening over here is that if you type in a branded query, so in this case somebody's typed in Southwest Airlines and you hit search. So what's happening is that in the sponsored search results, so you see this top portion right here is the sponsored search results where my cursor is right now. What they're doing is that when Southwest's ad is coming up, because they're obviously bidding on their keyword, you have a huge banner that this company is promoting, so that's Southwest's banner, and then you have the actual sponsored search right below it. So you got the the ad extensions. They have like different links for like check in online, check flight status, etc. So but the big thing is like the site links and the ad extensions have always been there for a while. But this banner coming right on the top of the ad in the actual Google search result is something that's never been done before. This is brand new. And Google again is kind of moving away from that policy. Hey, everybody wants to make money at the end of the day, right? So Google's no different. So this is really interesting. Let's see how this percolates down to the other advertisers, or how Google intends to spread this out there across their PPC channels. And just a matter of time before we start seeing banner ads, I guess, on Google's homepage, which is going to be pretty bad. But hey, what can we do? We are at Google's mercy. So this was big news for the ICs that are actually managing some of the big brands, some of the big campaigns. I suggest you get in touch with your Google reps to try and see how you can get, if you have a big Fortune 500 brand that you're working with, on how to get this whole branded thing in your PPC campaign and be a part of this test. Right now it's a very exclusive club of about, I think, 30 advertisers that Google is testing this out with. Great. Moving on, so we wanted to cover the 6 major Google changes over the past year once again. A lot of buzz on this topic from the ICs. They wanted some more in-depth information on this, and very simply, they just wanted us to repeat this information for everybody's benefit. Great, so here we go. So the first change that Google had done over the past year was the not provided data. So for the ones that are not aware of what this controversy is all about, Google had started doing not showing keyword searches or keyword data for users that were logged into any of Google's properties, and this change was done in the end of 2011, beginning 2012. So let's say you're on Gmail, you're logged into Gmail, and you open up another browser or another window, and you're doing a search on any of Google's on Google search engine for anything. It would not show you the search data that the keywords that you're typing in Google's search box in analytics. So it would essentially hide your data, and it would hide that under this statistic called not provided. That's essentially what it would do. So when Google had launched this not provided data change, they'd only done it for people that were logged on to Google's properties. So if you were logged on to Google's properties, is only when your data, your keyword search results would appear as not provided in analytics. So what happened was, a couple of months back, Google actually made the change across the board. So what they essentially said was, doesn't matter if you're logged onto a Google property or if you're not logged onto a Google property, as long as you're surfing a Google and you're typing in any searches, we're not going to show that data in analytics, period. However, what really caused the controversy was the fact that they continue to display your search results and your search data in PPC. So if you're actually doing a PPC campaign, a Google AdWords campaign, then they'll continue to show you all the data. But if you're actually doing a search on Google, then it's going to be classified as not provided. So huge controversy on this. It didn't go down very well in the industry. Is it a move by Google to make more money? Perhaps. However, this is really what's generated a lot of controversy over the past couple of months as far as this whole not provided data segment is concerned. we'd be talking about solutions and how to overcome some of these challenges that Google's posed us in the next slide. So the second big change that Google had done was the PageRank. Now, for the ones that are not aware of what the PageRank is, it's essentially a number from 0 to 10 that's assigned by Google to a website, and 0 is the lowest number. So when you launch a new website, it essentially starts from 0, and then you can go up as high as 10. Personally, I've only seen about 3 or 4 websites that have ever got a PageRank of a 9 or a 10. It's pretty tough to get. So PageRank was seen as a success metric by a lot of agencies, by a lot of clients. So when you'd be pitching to them, they'd be asking you questions like, well, how much are you going to bump up my PageRank by in the next 6 or 12 months? Or some of the agencies that actually made their model over PageRank itself, where they'd be like, look, we get your PageRank from 2 to 5 or 2 to 4, et cetera, et cetera. Some link building companies that were out there had also set up their entire system based on PageRank increases that they could basically get you, and that's how they were pitching their services. So Google again said enough's enough, no PageRank update as since February of 2013. So if you've not seen your website or your clients' websites or your prospects' websites, PageRank's changing, because PageRank is a piece of information that is publicly accessible. As a matter of fact, the only information with regards to Google's algorithm that was actually publicly accessible, so it would give us some sort of an indication whether we were in the right direction with the website or not. Google killed that as of February 2013. So since February, there have been no PageRank updates. So if your PageRank is static and your clients and your prospects are asking you what's going on, that's exactly what you can tell them. Because officially, the PageRank has been not updated since February 2000. Hasn't been updated since February 2013. Now, I was reading recently, Matt Cutts in a recent conference, I believe it was PubCon, talked about the fact that it's not because we don't want to show the data that we've stopped updating it. It's because there's a very critical component that would update PageRank on all the different websites that was broken, and the fix is not a priority for them, which is the reason why they haven't been able to update the PageRank since February. But again, are they trying to hide information, or that's the real reason? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, no PageRank updates since February 2013. The other update that happened very recently that did shake up a lot of the sites, and we're getting a lot of queries from the ICs and new prospects and new ICs on how potentially the Hummingbird update has impacted their sites, their clients' websites, their rankings, traffic, etc. So what Google did was that they launched an update which was geared more towards mobile users, because they've seen an increase in voice searches that are taking place in Google. So, there's an example that I'd used in the last webinar where, let's say if you're driving somewhere and you're looking for an Italian restaurant or any sort of a restaurant for lunch or dinner, you're not going to type in Italian restaurant. Like, you want to essentially go with like a couple of key phrases. Your search is going to be sort of like a longer phrase search on using Google Voice. So you'd be like, can you find me the closest Italian restaurant to my location, or the closest French restaurant to my location, and then it's going to pull up searches for you. So the Hummingbird update was more geared towards longer searches so as to understand the significance and the real reason for the searches, and then pull up search results that were based that were the closest result to what you'd asked for. So as opposed to focusing on a couple of keywords, what Google's trying to do is it's trying to make its algorithm smarter so as to pick up the overall underlying meaning of what you're trying to communicate to the search engine, and then pull the most relevant search results for your long phrase that you just mentioned to Google that you want a result for. So that was a Hummingbird update which was geared towards these searches, and this did mean some significant changes to how we were doing our on-page and our on-site optimization, which I will be addressing. Then there was Google+. So for those of you that were aware, Google had launched another social media property. It was called Google Wave. This was about a while back, about 3 or 4 years back. They launched that, and they wanted to promote that pretty aggressively and have that as a competitor for Facebook and Twitter that were gaining in prominence. However, that did not take off. It didn't do well, and Google had to kill that product. However, they launched Google Plus, and surprisingly, Google Plus has done extremely well. It's now become, I'd say, probably the third or the fourth biggest player when it comes to the number of users as far as social media properties is concerned. However, what makes Google Plus really interesting is the fact that Google Plus is now an official signal as far as Google's algorithm is concerned. So whether you like it or not, you do have to play with Google Plus. You do have to be actively participating in it, because what Google's done is that they've basically started utilizing Google Plus data as one of the signals for their ranking algorithms. So even though you might not like Google Plus that much and you're a diehard Facebook fan, you have to start using it, because according to Google, it's important, and it started integrating a lot of their Google Plus data into the search results itself. And we showcased an example a couple of webinars back where in an ideal listing, a search listing, when you type in a key phrase and then you have, the Google authorship, and then you have the title tag, the description, and right below that you'd have a Google Plus update where it talks about, so-and-so person had +1 this listing. So they've started incorporating the Google Plus data into their search results, which is the reason why you cannot discount Google Plus. You have to pay attention to this. So this is really kicked off, and it's done really well for Google, and the search engine marketers have had to pay attention to this. The other change that I just briefly mentioned was the importance of authorship. And the reason why authorship really took off is after a comment that Google's ex-CEO Eric Schmidt had made publicly when he was promoting his book. And he talked about the fact that Google as an algorithm and the top 10 search results that show up on Google are going to be moving towards verified searches, verified results that are identifiable, that are coming in from a trust authority source. That's what essentially earns the top 10 spots in Google. You have to be trusted, you have to be verifiable, you have to be an identity, you have to disclose yourself, you cannot remain anonymous, and that's when we'll reward you with a top 10 result in our rankings. So in response to that, Google had launched Google Authorship about a year back, where what you can do is that you can tag a person to be associated with a particular website, and when it comes to a blog associated with that website, when it comes to any content associated with that website, what Google does is that it tags that person's picture, and you're allowed to put that in. So it tags that person's picture in the actual search result again. So when you're typing in a search in Google, when it shows up your result and it displays the results, it's going to show up the website's listing. Along with that, it's actually going to show a picture of the person that's being tagged as the author for that particular website. How important is authorship as far as Google rankings are concerned? It's getting increasingly more and more important, because as I mentioned, Google wants you to be a verifiable identity when it comes to giving you or rewarding you with the top 10 listings on its first page. So it wants to make sure that you're a known authority, that you are not hiding behind text. You are putting yourself out there, and it's all the information that you're presenting is again verifiable. So it gained a lot of significance. It's gained a lot of importance over the past I'd say year or so when it comes to getting authorship incorporated in websites. The final change that Google's made is a very interesting one, where they've started showcasing sites that have in-depth articles in their first 10 listings on their first page. So if you type in, let's say, some sort of a topic, whether it's like, let's say, the Mideast crisis, or the Iraq war, or you type in, floods in Pakistan, or you type in fire in Bangladesh factory. When you type in searches like these that are related to either latest news and events or that have, let's say white paper on content fusion or any sort of like in-depth content, what it's basically doing is that it's pulling in a category of searches on the first page that's titled as in-depth articles, and these are articles that Google thinks are written by subject matter experts when it comes to the area that you're searching in, and it pulls up these information pieces. You click on them, and then there's an extensive write-up that's been done on these pieces. So that component has also started to come into play, just again because Google wants to give you the most relevant results for your search that you've done. And there's been a bias towards newspapers. So we've seen that a lot of the newspapers, like the Washington Post, and New York Times, etc., are getting a bias when it comes to this sort of like a result. Maybe they have some sort of special tagging that they're doing. You can tag your articles as in-depth articles, by the way. There is a way to tag it. However, as opposed to small businesses or generic sites that are coming up in the in-depth articles portion, we're seeing some of the major players, some of the major branded entities that we are aware of that are showing up in the in-depth articles category in Google. So these were like the 6 major changes that Google's done over the past year. Now let's take a look at how we have to adapt to these 6 changes and make our systems better so as to try and stay on top of all these changes that Google's doing. And one thing search marketers are very good at is adapting, and Google's made sure of that. All right. So what does this really mean for websites and SEO? And we put a little nice little graphic in there. You see Google, big dinosaur, just kind of chewing Yahoo down, and then Bing just trying to stay in there, grabbing onto Yahoo's tail, doing partnerships or whatever it can so as to like compete with the big monster Google, right? Okay, so what have these changes essentially meant for search marketers, for how we do SEO at WSI ALM, and what we've observed is working a lot better for our clients? So one of the first things that we've done is that we are now restricted and revamping our campaigns to essentially sticking to 1 keyword per page. In the past, you could put in synonyms, you could put in plurals, you could put in similar sounding keywords all together in the page title tag. However, with the Hummingbird update, that's changed. We want to send out a very clear communication, a very clear signal to Google in terms of what a particular page is all about. So we want to try and stick to 1 keyword per page. All of the on-site optimization that you do should be ideally geared towards that 1 keyword. So you can have keyword, and then you can have a pipe and the brand name, just so that you're also getting branding as far as your title tag is concerned in the search display when Google displays your result on its searches. So stick with 1 keyword per page. All of the on-site optimization that you're doing for that page, whether it be the meta description, whether it be the alt tag, whether it be the header tags, the image tags, the internal links, the anchor text that you're creating on that page, all of the essential elements as far as on-page optimization are concerned should be focused on 1 keyword per page. Again, don't overdo it, and the best way so as to look at how you should be doing your SEO for a page is to look at your top 3 competitors that are ranking on the top 3 results for that particular keyword search. Run their URL through tools like the one tool that I'd mentioned that we use quite extensively is the Moz on-page grader tool, which I think is just that tool alone is worth the subscription for Moz, because it's such a powerful tool that they have. You just put in the URL and you put in the keyword, and then you basically see how that company, how that entity has optimized that page for that particular keyword. There would be some anomalies in that tool, like you might have this tool basically grades the page from A to F. F is the worst, A is the best for that particular keyword ranking. So you might see, for instance, a site ranking B on the grader tool, being graded as B, and then your own site being graded as A. You're number 2, that site's number 1. That might happen. Anomalies might happen. But I'd say in 90% of the instances, the grader tool is fantastic. When it grades somebody an A, you're normally ranking quite well, and the sites that are right at the top for their results, for their searches, are graded A. So the best thing to do is to run it through the Moz grader tool, and then take a look at their best practices, see what they're doing, take those best practices, incorporate them onto your website, and boom, there you go. See, SEO is really, I would say, I wouldn't go to the extent of saying that SEO is simple, but there's a lot of information that's just publicly accessible. And the beauty about that is that the competitors can't hide that information because there's so many ways to look at what they're doing, to see what they're doing. And a lot of the times when we're not able to get results for a client is primarily a budget-oriented issue because we're not doing enough because the budget doesn't allow us to do enough in terms of what the competitor is doing. I mean, you know, you can have a real estate agent wanting to compete with a Remax listing or a Century 21 listing that's on the top. Sure, all you really need is deep pockets to compete with them because there is no rocket science to this. You just have to deploy the formula of what's taken them to the top, which is a combination of on-page and off-page, and do more than what they're doing, and then just wait and let Google you know, do its indexing and get you up there. So that's really what it comes down to a lot of the times. Great, moving on. One of the things that we're trying to incorporate and we're educating our clients on is to incorporate a resources or an FAQ section on your website. Even if you're a small business, let's say, you know, you're one example that comes to my mind is you know, like septic tank. I just thought about that example. Even if you're like a small guy, I'm not sure if Ken's in this webinar. Ken's got a client, Alberta Septic Systems, and small guy, you know, mom and pop shop. However, there's nothing that stops him from being a subject matter expert when it comes to septic tank cleaning. I mean, that's such a niche. So he can basically become the subject matter expert. We can write content, extensive amounts of content, organize all of that in this resources FAQ section on the website. Hence, again, signaling to Google that this website's all about septic tanks. So whenever somebody searches for that, make sure that you're ranking us high. So this whole incorporation of a resources FAQ section on a client's website is the way to go because you want to communicate to Google that you are a subject matter expert when it comes to a particular theme or a category for your website. And it's a lot easier when you're just dealing with one category per website. It gets tricky when you're dealing with multiple categories and multiple areas of expertise. That's where it gets a little tricky. So it's a lot easier when you're just dealing with one category, one industry. The other thing that has become really important is the usage of the authorship tag. So wherever possible, we always encourage the clients and the ICs to encourage their prospects, their clients to set up the authorship tag, set up an identity for themselves so that people can associate a result with a person. People can associate a company with a person and establish your company's identity on the internet. It's a very, you know, very simply put, it's kind of like an about us for Google. So, you know, all the sites have an about us page. Some sites have a management team tag on their website, board of directors tab on their website. This is Google's way of knowing who is associated with your company. Very simple. And Google's not just doing it for themselves. They're doing it indirectly so as to benefit the visitors, to the users that are using the search engine because they want to, again, pull the most relevant examples. The other thing that we've started to focus on is the length of the article. Initially, you could get away with like writing 200-300 words of content with regards to like creating pages on a website. So if you want to create a page on a website, and trust me, I'm seeing some crazy stuff right now. There's a lot of ICs coming to us to audit some of their existing campaigns that are being run with either other suppliers or themselves, etc., etc. And there's stuff that we're seeing which is kind of interesting. I mean, we're seeing spammy links at the bottom of the pages that are hidden as good content. I mean, you know, I just saw one example of Armando yesterday when we were reviewing a website where there's keywords that are being stuck at the bottom in the footer, and you click on it, and there's only a couple of words that are different on the page, but all the other information is exactly the same. And what's been done on those pages is that fact has been hidden because they've tried to hide that fact, but the images essentially kind of like are the same, the topic's the same. All they've done is just switched up a couple of words, but like the footer is all spammy with all these different keywords in there, and rightly so. They got penalized and they dropped in their rankings and their traffic. So we're seeing stuff like that. We're seeing thin content, that's across the board. We're seeing over-optimization of certain keywords. We're seeing very generic title tags on pages. So we're seeing a lot of things that are out there that need to get fixed. So the article length for a particular page should be around 600 or more. We prefer to write 600 words, and we're putting in steps in place so as to stretch that even more, because ideally we want to go over 1,000 words when it comes to writing content for a particular topic or a particular page. Now if it's a press release, it's obviously different. When it comes to writing articles, we're trying to push it to this from the current 400 to 500 to the 600 to 800 mark, and then trying to push it again to 1,000 mark. Again, as I mentioned to you, a lot of the times the hindrance is not the content itself, it's the budget that we essentially have to play with for a client. The other thing that we are again educating the ICs and our clients on is the frequency of content that's being put out there. It was good enough in the past to put out one blog every month or so, but it's not enough anymore. I mean, you have to look at your industry, you have to look at who you're trying to beat as far as that space is concerned, and based on that you really have to increase or play with the frequency of your content. If you are in an industry where your top 2 of the top 3 searches and those websites are putting out a lot of content, a lot of good content, a lot of quality content, you have to beat them. In order to beat them, you have to have a more aggressive strategy than them. So this means that if they're putting out 3 blog posts or 3 articles a week, you have to put out 4 or 5 because you just don't have the task of being like them. You want to beat them. And that means you have to send out a clear communication to Google, hey, I'm better, my site's better when it comes to this particular keyword, so rank me higher. So you have an uphill battle where you're trying to dethrone somebody from the top positions, which means you have to do more work than what they're doing. So the frequency of the content really depends on the vertical that you're in and what the top sites in your vertical are doing, and then essentially doing more than what they're doing if you have to beat them. Or be very strategic and innovative when it comes to the keywords that you're trying to rank for. But I can tell you that whole strategy of long tail and identifying those gold nugget keywords that there's little competition for is diminishing, and it's diminishing fast because a lot of the people are using the same tools that we're using, identifying the same gold nuggets that we're identifying. So that window is getting smaller and smaller, which means that we as marketers have to work harder and harder so as to get the results for our clients, because everybody is essentially looking at that same information. And what we are starting to recommend, and we'd probably be doing something more formally as far as this approach is concerned probably in the future, and we mentioned this to some of the ICs at the ANI that we met up in Toronto, is taking an integrated marketing approach to marketing campaigns for your clients. Now I understand a lot of the times we are frustrated because our hands are tied because a client only has so much money to spend on a monthly basis, so we cannot put together the ideal marketing structure that we would want to put if this was our campaign and we had an unlimited budget. But the idea is, wherever possible, even if this means squeezing out a couple of extra $100 from the client on a monthly basis, try and always put together an integrated marketing approach for your client. And this means that part of the work can be done by the supplier, part of the work can be done by you. If you don't want to do any work for your client, great, then all of the work can be done by your supplier or the resources that you have set up. Incorporate an integrated marketing approach for your clients. That essentially means that use a combination of not just SEO, use a combination of SEO, PPC, social media, email marketing. I mean, one of I wouldn't necessarily say the best kept secrets, but email marketing is proven to have the highest conversion rates as far as any marketing medium is concerned. And yet, I would say that 6 out of 10 sites or 7 out of 10 sites, when we review them, do not have an email capture feature on their website. This is a very simple straight upsell, because the first thing that you tell a client is, we need to build a database for you. A database that you can harness, that you can market forever, and an opt-in database, because email marketing companies are getting very strict in terms of how you collect emails, like Constant Contact, MailChimp. They're very strict. So the first upsell is like, let's get a newsletter pop-up. Let's get a newsletter sign up on your website. Very simple upsell. We set that up, and that's the first conversion piece, so that you can actually start showing some numbers to the client when they're asking for, what did you do for me? Well, we got you X number of conversions. And the best part with an email is the fact that there's a lifetime value associated with an email. So it's not just an immediate reward that you got the client. You actually got him an email that he can use for his entire lifetime, blast out promotions to, send out regular communication to, till such time, or if ever that email says, I want to opt out, I don't want to receive any more messages from you. But that's the power of email marketing. So the whole idea with Google hiding keyword searches for the SEO, for the analytics, however still displaying it in PPC, is that it's okay to even run a very small PPC campaign. So let's say, you just set up a quick PPC campaign, spend $100-150, just bid on a couple of core keywords for the client, and here's what the benefit is. And Armando's going to kill me because I'm probably giving some of the secret sauces out there, but this is important. So run a small campaign, $100-150, just bid on 2 or 3 keywords for a client. That's it. Just bid on 2 or 3 of their core keywords for the client. And what this is going to do is that the client's always going to be on the top for those keywords, because you're only bidding on 2 or 3 keywords. It's going to keep getting him conversions, because he's going to see his ad right at the top for the core keywords. So he's going to be happy because he's seeing visibility for his company for his core keywords. Yet at the same time, you're working on SEO, so you're also trying to get the rankings up. However, he's not going to come back and complain to you about conversions, because his PPC campaign is converting, and that's making him money because you're only bidding on his core keywords while the SEO is kicking in. And then 6-7 months down, when the SEO kicks in, he's got some good rankings, and you see the Google organic traffic going up, you can switch. Let's say you can either shut off that PPC campaign, which is in any case a very small campaign, $100-150, or you can continue it because that's giving him conversions, and ramp up budgets in other areas. So you have to have an integrated marketing approach. I mean, social media, again, unless the company's spending big money, like like for a huge campaign, a structured campaign, a viral sort of a campaign that you got to put together, if it simply means somebody's got to update their social media profiles on a regular basis every day and put out content, you can easily do that through platforms like Hootsuite. Get an intern to do it, get us to do it. We have really cheap packages that we can help you with. As low as $7,500, we can update social media properties for your clients, unless, as I mentioned, they have some pretty massive deliverables associated with their social media strategy. But otherwise, the whole idea is to approach marketing more in a sort of an integrated manner, where you're incorporating elements like SEO, PPC, social media, email marketing, so as to get overall results for a client, and not just relying on SEO alone to get the client to where they want to get. Great. So that's this, and of course, no paid links. I had mentioned this in the previous webinar as well. Stay away from blog networks. If you are participating in blog networks, just ensure that there is a no follow on the blog network links, and you're primarily doing that for traffic that you get from these blog networks. Do not associate your client's website with any sort of paid links whatsoever, because sooner or later, Google's going to crack down on these networks. They're going to crack down on that network, and if you were a part of that network, you're going to get penalized. Because believe it or not, the sites now and your link profiles are so transparent, Google just needs to take one look, and their algorithm just needs to do a search with regards to the kind of links that you have, and if they see any sort of like funny links in your link profile, that's it. It's tough to get out of Google's little sandbox once you get in it, as far as being penalized is concerned. Great. Moving on. So we got a couple of other news items before we move on to Google Webmaster Tools, and I want to leave some time for it, so I'm going to cover these really quick. So Google's changed their AdWords ad rank. That's the PPC rank that calculates where ad ranks as far as Google is concerned. So they've changed that, and what they've done is that they also factor in ad extension and the formats that you're using, so as to decide what position your ad should be displayed in when it comes to PPC, Google AdWords PPC. So prior to this, ad extensions and the formats did not play any role when it came to calculating your ad rank. It was primarily a matter of your quality score and your click-through rate. That was primarily like main indicators for where your ad was basically going to rank. Now they've added an ad extension, so Google Google wants to see ad extensions being utilized in your PPC campaigns. They want to see that because ad extensions utilization means that you're providing more relevant results to users when they're searching for related queries, which also means a higher click-through rate for you. And then Google's also focusing now on formats. So if, let's say, the search comes in from a mobile user, then a mobile ad associated with the user's query is going to be given more importance than a desktop ad. And you can create mobile ads in your PPC campaign. So a really interesting update expected to happen because, again, we're talking about relevancy here, but Google's finally put it out there. Then the other interesting topic that was discussed on, again, one of the leading internet marketing news sites that was out there was double serving of PPC ads. There was a lot of controversy because you see companies like eFax, they own a lot of different entities. So you see eFax on the left-hand side of my screen. They own eFax, they own Fax.com, SmartFax, MyFax, MetroFax, CenterFax, RapidFax. These are all intermediaries that eFax, the main company, has legitimately bought and kept them as individual entities and is advertising. So if you look at this result for this particular keyword, online faxing, they've essentially monopolized the search results for this for these key phrases in Google AdWords. And the same thing with Bing. If you type in the same keyword, online faxing, in Bing, you can see the first 4 PPC results are essentially this one company, eFax, that owns all these other companies. So there was a lot of controversy on double serving, and Google and Bing were officially asked to clarify their stand, and they pointed to their policy that states that there's nothing definitive or concrete as far as the policy is concerned when it comes to double serving PPC ads. What they basically say is that as long as you're putting out relevant, unique content out there for a particular search term, then it's totally fine. You can do what you want. And these companies have played it smart because they've bought these little companies out, but they've kept them as their unique properties, giving unique information out to the customer when they're looking for the information, which is why they haven't been penalized. Had they been all redirecting to the same domain or redirecting to the page that essentially has the same information, they would have definitely been penalized and their ads would have been taken out. Only one domain would have been showing the ad. But because they've kept all these entities relatively independent, all their ads are showing up, and they're essentially monopolizing all these searches that are coming up in PPC for these keywords. So what is the take for us? The take for us is that if you're dealing with a company that has multiple entities within its umbrella, great. Do not integrate those entities. Encourage your clients to keep them separate so that you can take the advantage of a monopolization strategy on Google and Bing, where you can basically run multiple PPC campaigns for different websites and essentially own the space. And there's examples, a couple of examples here, and Google doesn't seem to be doing much about it. The other big news that we launched last week in our webinar that I just wanted to repeat really quick was retargeting on the Facebook exchange. So Google calls it remarketing. Remarketing is a whole concept of somebody coming to your website, and then we tag them with a specific cookie. We put a cookie tracker when they come to your website, and then your ads chase them all over the internet wherever they're surfing. So you can now do the same thing with Facebook. So let's say you have a Facebook user that comes to your website but also has a Facebook account. So when they come to your website, we tag them, and then when they log into their Facebook account, now we'd start basically showing them your ads. And the whole concept, premise behind remarketing is the fact that studies have shown that it takes about 6 to 7 impressions for your concept for the user for him to make sense and then for him to actually act on it. So we can now do retargeting on the Facebook exchange. If you'd like to participate in this or get more information, please shoot us an email, myself or Armando, and we definitely give you more information on this. Very powerful because, I mean, think about like 1 billion users on Facebook, right? And the amount of targeting that's available. Excuse me. Moving on. So this part of the segment, we always showcase some useful guides or interesting information pieces that are out there. So this week we're showcasing Quick Sprout University that's been launched by a gentleman called Neil Patel that you're very familiar with. He owns Crazy Egg, the heat map tracking software, and he's launched Quick Sprout University, which is a really, really good tool. So I'm actually going to take you through this. So the URL is very simple, quicksproutuniversity.com, quicksprout.com/university. And if you scroll down, he's got videos on all different categories like SEO, link building, content marketing, social media, free videos, very, very useful videos, like good information in these videos. He doesn't mess around. He's just giving you the information straight up. Paid advertising, that's PPC, email marketing, rep management, conversion optimization. So excellent, excellent videos that I suggest that you all go through in your spare time. And he's supposed to be putting in another 100 videos in the next month or so. He's going pretty aggressive at this university. Great information that he's just putting out there. So I really suggest that you put this in your learning modules and take a look at these videos whenever you have a chance, because there's a lot of good information. Even if it's basic information, it's good to kind of get it from a different perspective, a different source, and he's definitely a very experienced source when it comes to information like this. Great. Okay. Tool of the week. Let's take a look at the Webmaster Tools. We have a good 10 minutes. Great. So we're actually going to spend some time on this today, and we'll do a nice little walkthrough of the Google Webmaster Tools console. So after this, you have a good idea of how to handle and navigate through Webmaster Tools. Okay. So the first page that you come to is the login page. So we're going to log in and sign in. So Google Webmaster Tools for the ICs that are not aware of is your direct communication for your website with Google. So this is where you can communicate about your site directly with Google. As you know, Google answers questions about your website so promptly. Obviously being sarcastic there, you never hear back from them for any query, whatever you have. So this is one console where your site is directly communicating with Google, hence its importance. So the first console, this is your home page. You can actually put in any number of sites that you want over here. So this is a test account that we have created, and there's some test sites that we set up. So if in your Webmaster console, you can put pretty much all your sites in a centralized login. And then we're going to check a website over here. So let's click on this. So you click on the site that you want to actually review, and you'd be basically taken to your dashboard page. There's three important things that are being showcased in your dashboard page. There's a current status, which is showcasing you any crawl errors. So if there's any crawl errors that are associated with your website that are going to be identified here. Search queries. So in the past month or so, what kind of search queries? So you can see your impressions graph here. How accurate is it? Again, the verdict's out there. I mean, it's not 100% accurate, but it's good to form an idea in terms of what's happening with regards to queries on your website. And then the dashboard gives you sitemaps related information. How many URLs have been submitted, how many have been indexed, etc., etc. So that's kind of like how you have your dashboard set up. Now there's a little wheel, a little cog on the right-hand side where I'm taking my arrow now. So if you click on that, that actually gives you a lot of interesting information, and we'll cover this one by one. So the first part is the Webmaster Tools preference. So when you go to the Webmaster Tools preference, you can set up your language preferences there, and you can also set up email notifications. So if there's any potential issues that Webmaster Tools identifies, you can set up auto alerts through the email notifications panel over here. Very simple. And then we go back. And let's look at the next option. The next option is site settings. Now this is, I would say, one of the most, because there's a lot of important features here, but site settings is one of the most important features when it comes to your Webmaster Tools account, because it's in the site settings console that you actually set up your geo-target for your website. And we've seen a lot of questions even in Google Groups from the ICs on how I do this. Well, here's where you do it from. So you go into your site setting tab and you tell Google exactly what your site is geared towards, especially from a geolocation perspective. It's very important. So if you're targeting the users in US, Canada, and any country in the world, please tell Google what their site is targeting in this console here, so as to send a very clear communication to Google in terms of which users or which geo target your site is geared towards. your preferred domain. Don't set a preferred domain, display URLs as www or display URLs as without the www. Very important, because again, you need to have consistency when you're putting your website out there and when you're building links. So you either choose the www version or you choose the non-www version. Doesn't matter, you can choose either or, but the idea is choose one and stick with it, so that going forward, any sort of like link building activity, any activity that you do should be referencing that particular URL. We advise you to use the www version, because that's the most common version that's out there. Crawl rate, you can actually set up crawl rates. This is more beneficial for sites that are really big, and Googlebot crawling them frequently is going to probably slow down their servers, etc. So you can actually set up your crawl rate, but for the most part, leave it at the recommended option, which is let Google optimize for my sites. Let Google decide. That's normally what you should leave it to. Great. Moving on, change of address. So this allows you to set up 301 redirects. Again, a lot of questions that come about from the ICs on, I'm launching a new site. I want to move my old site to my new site. How do I do it? You do it by using something called a 301 redirect. That is a permanent redirect that tells Google that your site has moved from domain A to domain B permanently. That's your new domain. So all the links that were pointing to domain A, all the link juice that was coming to domain A should be pushed over to domain B. And the correct way to do that is 301 redirects, and you can also do it while using this console, the change of address. Tell us the URL of your new domain, SEO5 Consulting, whatever, has moved to select a verified site, and then you can submit this information. However, you still need to do the 301 to the old domain in terms of coding the 301 into the old site. But you can mention the change of address here to Google as well. Moving on, Google Analytics property. So this is where you link your website with an analytics account, and then you'll have the analytics and the Webmaster Tools linked, and you might have seen a Webmaster Tools console in your analytics. So all you do is just select whatever account your analytics, your Webmaster Tools analytics is associated with, click it, hit save, and then boom, you're all set. And then Google's going to sync up the analytics with the Webmaster Tools, and they'll start talking to each other and sharing data. Very important when you're trying to gather, good data in analytics. Great. Moving on, users and site owners. So here's where you can actually add information related to setting up new users and setting up their permissions. So you can actually set it up over here. Just hit the Add New User tab and set up permissions. That's what you can do with the users and the site owners tab. Verification details. This tab basically tells you what you verified your site with. Did you set up a meta tag or an HTML file? When was the verification done? It gives you the information and who the verified owners are. And then you can also unverify if you want to delete your site for whatever reason, or set up like a new console. You can do it from here. And moving on, and then you also have associates. Now, sorry, getting some sort of an error here. There you go, associates. So the associates tab basically is an area where it's different from adding a new user in the users and site owners, primarily because users and site owners have all access to your Webmaster Tools. They can kill your site. They can put a robots.txt all across your site, de-index it. They can do whatever they want with your website. However, associates have limited powers when it comes to controlling your website, but they can still do updates. Like, a perfect example is you want to associate somebody with your Google Plus account so that they can make updates to your Google Plus pages without really having access to the other critical aspects for Webmaster Tools. So you set up an associates account for them, and that's how they can make Google Plus updates, etc. But they'll not be able to touch any of your main aspects of your website. So that's where the associates account comes in handy. Then on your left-hand side, you essentially have a few different options. You got the site dashboard. The site dashboard is something that we reviewed, that we looked at. So this is like your site dashboard with the three main parameters that are reported. site messages. So if there's any communication that Google wants to put out, we've seen communications like, your Joomla version's outdated, there's a new version for Joomla, your WordPress plugin or your WordPress version's outdated, there's a new version for WordPress. So you'd get those kind of site messages here. If there's any sort of penalties, you'd be getting a communication from Google here as well. But there's another place where you'll be getting a penalty related information, which is under the search traffic in the manual actions tab. So, hope and pray that you never get a message in this section. That's really bad, where a manual action is where Google's actually received a complaint, or they've gone in, looked at your website, found spam, sent you an email saying fix it. And I can't get any worse than that. You should not be in that situation. Okay, so the next tab is the search appearance tab. So when you click on the search appearance tab, the first thing that comes under it is structured data. So structured data is stuff like if you're using any sort of like special markups, like the in-depth articles and categorizing all your pages in a specific way, you can look at all the structured data pages over here, how they've been set up, how many pages that are associated with the structured data that you're setting up. All of that is essentially very neatly categorized over here under the structured data tab, and you can review it. Data highlighter is something very interesting. So what Google said is that if you have interesting information on your website that relates to things like event listings, review listings, you can make Google understand that information better, because Google has different ways of putting or presenting information out there. So you can see some screenshots like upcoming events, restaurant ratings, etc., that Google's putting out there in their search listings. So what Google says is tell us whenever you have like data, like specialized data, like event listings, review ratings, articles. Let us know, because then we'll index it in a particular way and we'll showcase it in a particular way. And the good part is that you can actually do that using a Webmaster Tools console. I'll give you a very quick example. So let's say I do have some content on my website that I want to highlight. So I click on the Start Highlight tab. Let's say this content is on my home page, so I'll just go to the home page. Right? Type of information I want to highlight. So you can highlight articles, book reviews, events, local businesses, movies, products, restaurants, software application, TV episodes. I mean, these are the kind of things that you can highlight right now. So let's say I have an article to highlight. So I'll just click an article, tag this page and others like it, or tag just this page. You have that option. So let me go tag just this page. I hit OK, and you'll see what Google does is that it actually pulls up a version of my page on the live website itself, right here. So it's pulled up the version of my website, and what I can do is I can basically go scroll down. I have the bar here, and let's say if I have an article that I want to highlight. It's a little messed up over here because there's scripts being used on the site, but let's say if this was the article that I wanted to highlight. So all I do is just simply highlight this article right here and then start inputting my data. Article, what's the title, the author, the date published, the image, the category, and if it's like some sort of a rating, I can put that in over here. And then all I have to do is just hit publish, boom, and it's done. And now Google knows that this data that I have is a specialized data set, and it needs to be incorporated in the special ways that Google showcases data in their search listings, and then my site's going to become a part of it. So like this, you can highlight any amount of data that you want on your website. This tab is the funnest tab, and we use this all the time, and this is the HTML improvements that are suggested by Google. The HTML improvements tab tells you about duplicate meta descriptions, short meta descriptions, title tags, if there are short title tags, if your pages are missing title tags, if there's duplicate title tags, and it actually tells you what the pages are. So in this case, there's 2 pages that have short meta descriptions. So we click on that, and it's going to give us the pages that Google's thinking are short meta descriptions. Why you should pay attention to this is because this is exactly coming from Google. This is information coming from Google directly. So if they tell you that you have duplicate title tags, your developer might be trying to convince the client that there are no incidences of any duplicate tags, and those pages that are appearing as duplicate are hidden or behind the scenes or Google can't see it. Well, if Google's reporting that, then that's proof right there. And that's what you should, just screenshot, send to your client saying, look, here's all the issues associated with your site. Google's reporting it. We need to fix it. So a huge, a very important area as far as HTML improvements is concerned to this section. Site links are links that appear at the bottom of your website. So if your website's had enough credibility with Google, Google's going to start showing links within your website like the About Us, Contact Us page that are associated with your website. And the site links panel is where you can control those links. Now bear in mind that you cannot add site links, you can only delete site links. So Google still holds the authority on where they show site links on your website and where they don't, and it's great because it's actually extra real estate for your website, but Google determines how many site links and where the site links are displayed, and then you can control the site links though. So let's say there's a site link that's coming up about a particular person in your company, and his page is being showcased by Google for whatever reason. You don't want that page to be showcased. You can come in here and you can delete that site link and you can demote it, etc. Right? So, and then Google knows we should not be showing that site link. The next tab of importance is search traffic. This is where you can actually get analytics related data, and then as you might remember, there's an issue that we had highlighted with the not provided queries. Here's the next best bet for you as far as who's searching for what on your website. The only disadvantage to the Webmaster Tools data is that you can only go back 3 months. So if I'm right now looking at October 28th, I can only go back to July 31st. So the best thing to do is if this data is really important for you, start archiving this query-related data, these keyword-related data, because this is where you can get keyword-related data, but you cannot get it beyond 3 months. So start archiving this information as the months are going forward, because you're only going to go 3 months back, and then you can look at all the keyword searches that are being done for your website. The next best bet to the not provided. So this is where you can get a lot of the answers when it comes to your keywords that are getting searched for your or your client's website. And a lot of the publicly available tools that are claiming that they have solved the not provided information and they've cracked it and you can give you not provided data, they're essentially pulling this information from your Webmaster Tools console. That's really where they're pulling this information from. Great. The links to your website tab refers to all the backlinks that are associated with your website. So you can actually see a nice little screenshot of all the backlinks that are coming up. Okay, there it's popping up now. Great. So for example, this site has total links of 1,386. Who links to you the most? You can actually see it. Click on the More tab and then you'll actually see all the links that are associated with your website. And then your most linked content. Where are these links appearing? So when you're setting up deep links, individual links to different pages, you can actually see, like for instance, this company had written the article about what Donnie Brasco, the Cosa Nostra, can teach us about link building, and this particular article was linked to 268 times. So you can get like a nice sort of like a link definition. Very important because Google's watching the same data. So when you want to try and look at your backlink profile, you should be looking at this because this is exactly what Google's looking at for your website. So it's very important to scan this, and if you see fishy stuff, get rid of it right away because this is exactly what Google's looking at. The internal links tab showcases all the pages and the internal links that they have in them, what kind of internal links they have. So the page is loading up. We're going to get there in 1 sec. So I'll continue in the meantime. So the internal links tab showcases all, there you go, showcases all the target pages and the links that are associated with these pages. You can download this table, in a spreadsheet and get us information associated with these internal links and understand how your pages are linked with each other. The manual action tab, we'd already been through that. So this is where if there's any issues with your website and Google's taken any sort of like manual action, they will be reporting that via an email and sending you an email in this manual actions tab right here and giving you information on what action they've taken as far as your website is concerned, and that you can take the necessary action. A lot of sites got penalized with the Penguin Panda updates, and they got messages here, especially spammy link warnings, and that's what you need to be very careful about. Moving on to the Google Index, and this is really the health of your website when it comes to the pages getting indexed in Google. So you have the index status, how many pages are indexed. The content keywords is kind of interesting because it tells you what Google's seeing with regards to your website's relevancy when it comes to keywords. So with the Hummingbird update, this is very important to look at because you can look at what Google's seeing with regards to the theme of your website. And if your target keyword is appearing in the theme for the website, great, because you can see, I mean, keyword SEO significance highest, right? So you can understand how you're building themes for your website and if you're doing the right thing by looking at your content keywords tab and ensure that you're sending out the right signal to Google. The remove URLs tab, very simple. If you want to remove any URLs, you can just create a removal request right here, and then Google's going to crawl your website, look at the removal request, and boom, remove any URLs that you've requested. In terms of the next section is crawl. So if there's any crawl errors that are associated with your website, Google did not index or any crawl any of the pages, or they got like 404 pages or any 401 pages, everything gets reported over here. So you can look at the pages that were either 401s or 404s, and then you can basically fix them. Crawl stats is also reported in the dashboard, and this just gives you an overall snapshot of how many pages are crawled by Google, how many pages they're crawling every day, how much information they're crawling every day, time spent downloading a page for your website. For small sites, this information is not necessarily very important. Bigger sites, it definitely makes a lot more sense. Fetches Google. So this gives you a snapshot of how Googlebot looks at a page. So the last time we fetched this page was on the 30th of July. When you click on this, it's going to give you an actual snapshot of how Google fetched this page. So you can see right here all the code. Remember, Google doesn't see images, nothing. So all they're seeing is just this coded information. So it's very good to troubleshoot any issues or any challenges that you have with your website, or if you're having any indexing issues, you can actually fetch the page as Googlebot, and then you can see, do you have a lot of queries? Is that what's impacting the load time of the website? Do you have a lot of plugins? Is there a particular plugin that you have that's slowing down the load time? So, again, you need a little bit of a technical ability to do this, but great tool because you can fetch your pages Googlebot right here and do all these troubleshooting items. Blocked URLs is essentially a page where you put in your robots.txt file, and any pages that you don't want indexed on your website, you disallow them in this section right here. So there might be a lot of pages, whether it's proprietary content behind login pages that you don't want Google to be indexing in their general index, and you don't want them pulling it up in the search pages. So that's where you block all and disallow your pages. You set up the robots.txt disallow file, and this page, the blocked URLs page, gives you an overall snapshot of what pages are blocked. Be very careful while utilizing this, because we had a case with a client about a month back where one of the developers accidentally blocked their entire website because he just put in a user agent disallow, and he just put in /, which essentially signified to Google, hey, disallow the entire website. The entire website went off the index. The search traffic went from 1,500 visits down to 0. The client was like, what the hell? And we were trying to troubleshoot the issue, and the issue is as simple as fixing up the robots.txt. So useful, but a very, very dangerous tool, this one. So, handle with extreme caution. Sitemaps. Sitemaps is where you submit sitemaps. We don't recommend submitting sitemaps frequently. As long as you do it once and you're not having any issues as far as indexing pages are concerned, great. You don't need to submit the sitemap again and again. If all your pages are indexed, great. If you are having indexing issues, then the idea is to fix the issue that you're having and then upload a sitemap so Google can come back and then crawl the site once again. I'm sorry, I've extended this, but I'll continue because the webinar is being recorded, and then you can, for the ones that need to leave, can always look at the recording and finish up the session. URL parameters. So the URL parameters, like a lot of the sites have dynamic content, like shopping-oriented websites, e-commerce websites, bigger websites that are using a lot of tracking, that are using a lot of parameters in their URLs. So URL parameters tells Google how they should be treating your pages based on these parameters that you've set up. So site www.domain.com !ID equals whatever like parameters that you're setting up. You can tell Google what these parameters mean so as to help Google to understand your website and your parameters and crawl your website more efficiently. And that's where you can add parameters that you've set up with your developers and then tell Google what these parameters are all about, right? Malware, so Google automatically crawls your website, and if it detects any sort of malware, any sort of viruses on your website, it doesn't want to get the visitors corrupted with that malware. So if there is any issues with malware, it's going to put the message over here, and then you can fix the issue based on the malware that Google has detected, clean up your website, and then resubmit a sitemap so as to tell Google that that issue has been solved. Very important because, again, Google does not want to show a site, and they even put up a message saying this site is not safe. You might have seen that. So it's very important to make sure that your site does not have any malware, and if it does and Google detects it, please clean it up as soon as possible. The other resources in your Webmaster Tools, we've talked about the first two. There's an email markup tester tool, so you can check contents of your email, your HTML email. We all know about Google Places, the Merchant Center, which is for Google products. Page Speed Insights is really cool, and it's also in the Labs feature, and the Labs feature is where Google keeps previewing newer features that you can utilize for your website. So PageSpeed basically gives you an insight on how your website is doing on desktop and mobile devices. So you can actually type in your website's URL and then run a report and share that report with a client. So PageSpeed Insights is a great report, as well as gtmetrics.com. You get that information again on that website as well. Out of these labs, so whatever new stuff that Google's testing out, they keep featuring in the lab section. There's one very cool labs section here, the custom search feature that they're testing out, and this is your customized search engine. So what you can do is that you can add your website and you can add other websites, and you can create your own search engine so that when you're searching, when you're doing a custom search, Google's only searching those websites and pulling up information for you. How would this be relevant? This might be relevant for, let's say, universities or students that are researching some material or some content, and they need to constantly refer to just a bunch of websites, whether it's 50 or 100 websites related to their vertical, or your university is added like a resource center of 100 websites that you can refer to. So you want to have Google just searching information from those 100 sites. You can set up Google's custom search, and then Google's only going to be searching those websites that you've set up in your custom search. So you can create your own Google. You can create your own index for your websites using this custom search engine. Very, very cool. Not very publicized, not used a lot because it is still in labs. That means it's still being tested, but a very, very cool feature. And we already talked about site performance and seeing how well your site is viewed by Google when it comes to desktop and mobile. Terrific. This gets us to the end of a brief overview on the Webmaster Tools. Coming back to our presentation. Excellent. Armando, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
That was a long one. I thought you'd gone away, but okay, great, Armando. So I'll just hand it over to you to do a little spiel about our company, and then I think we're all set.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Vinish. And if you have any questions, would you be taking any Q&As, Vinish?
Yep, I can, as a matter of fact, take them right now. So again, if you have any questions and if you want a direct answer, as I mentioned, please email Armando at wsilm.com or myself at info@wsilm.com, and this way we can actually pay one-on-one attention to you and attend to your query in a more sort of a personal way. I'll take some questions right now. So let's see here. I'm going to pull some questions. Great. So I'm just going to scroll down. Okay, so there's a question from John. With regards to authorship, can individual pages be assigned different authors, or does the entire site have to be one single author? Great question, John. And yes, you can assign multiple authors to a particular website, because what happens is that in certain instances, like let's say if it's a blog post and you have multiple blog users that are writing for that particular website, you can have authors. So Mark had a question about Google authorship again. Can a business use a logo instead of a photo of a CEO for authorship? What about a group photo of all the employees? Great question, Mark. Unfortunately, at this stage, Google is only allowing a single user's or a single individual's picture associated with a website. I know it's very irritating because, I mean, the ideal thing would have been just to use a company's logo, which is kind of like the more natural identity that you want to associate with the website. But the whole idea with authorship is the fact that Google wants to create an identity for your website and have an individual associated with that identity, and that's who the author is. So unfortunately, at this stage, you can only create it with one person. You cannot use the company logo. You cannot use a group picture. It's got to be one person. And again, there's a lot of controversy about this, and maybe Google's going to do some changes. But as of right now, you can only use the photo of an individual person to be associated with your authorship. People still complaining about the audio. I think it's GoToMeeting at this stage because we're using a pretty good internet connection here. If we can or cannot tag our articles as in-depth, I suppose we cannot. Felipe, I will get back to you on that because I believe there is a way to tag your articles as in-depth. However, it's up to Google on how they index it and if they show them in their main search pages. But there is a way, I believe, to put in to tag your articles as in-depth, and I will send you more information on this. Okay, Bob had a question. If you have clients with multiple products, would you create individual FAQ pages for each niche? Great question, Bob. So if you do have a client in multiple products, the ideal way to do this would be to create categories in your website, and the other term for this is creating a sort of like a structured taxonomy, so that in these individual taxonomy and the categories that you're creating, you communicate to Google quite effectively as to what that category is associated with, what keyword theme the category is associated with, and that's how Google can index these pages and different products that you're targeting. Would be interested in seeing an example of how to set up the authorship tag. Felipe, great. We'll send you some resources on that. What's the point of Google of having write us 1,000 words when people don't really read on the internet? Do such pages really get analytics users showing 10 minutes to read them? Yeah, you'd be surprised, Felipe. There's been studies that have been done when it comes to the length of the content, and longer pages do attract readers, provided that they're presented to the users in an aesthetically appealing way, in a fun way. There's a lot of imagery that's associated, slideshows that are incorporated into content, and it's not just a boring, here's 1,000 words, go ahead and read it. Related articles should be mixed into that page. So it's all about how you present that information out to a client. But if it's interesting enough and you have all these elements in a page, it can really, the average time on page definitely does go up. How can you know a link to your site is good or bad from Google's point of view? It's again a good question, Felipe. It's Google's not given any parameters out there in terms of what's a good and a bad link. They say all links should be earned. We know how difficult that is. However, you can look at some forums and some of the sites that Google has banned when it comes to the links that they were associated with, or you can also get our opinion. So if you feel that there is a link that you are not sure if it's ethical or if it's borderline bad, just shoot us an email and we can give you our comments, our thoughts on that link. Isn't it a minimum PPC budget now $1,000? There isn't any WSI supplier that will take on a $100 PPC budget. Talk to us, Mark. what is an ad extension? Ken had asked this question. So Ken, an ad extension basically is more information related to your PPC ad. So it can be in the form of like, specific products that we want to advertise in an ad extension. It can be in the form of location. So there's different extensions that we can essentially deploy for a PPC campaign. I've just joined to find the webinar already at an advanced stage. We ended summertime last weekend. Did you? I'm sorry, Simon. I'm not sure what the question is. How do you archive search queries, Mark? You have to do that offline right now, unfortunately, because Webmaster Tools does not have any method of automatically archiving search queries. So unfortunately, this is a manual activity, and you'll have to pull the data, put it in a report, send it to the client, or just archive it with you, use Google Docs or something, but it is a manual activity at this stage. And yes, you will lose data in 3 months, so it's very important to archive your search queries on a regular basis. Great. Great. Simon said your seminar did not start at 4 p.m. my time as usual. We were just a couple of minutes late, Simon. 11 a.m. Eastern is when we start, so we started about a couple of minutes in, 11:02. I think you might have the times messed up, but we always do it at 11 a.m. Eastern to 12. Great. There's Simon's question mostly about the fact Europe changed to winter hours, but North America next weekend. That's right, Simon. That's probably what would have messed up the time zones. Great. Thanks, Felipe. Thanks for that clarification. Terrific. No other questions. Thanks everyone for attending this session of Launchpad. It's really fun producing these for you. There's a lot of knowledge, a lot of good information. Please give us any and every feedback, good or bad, or what you'd like to see in the series. This is really for you. We try and not do any pitches, any service-related pitches. This is really information-based. So thanks everyone for attending. I hope you have a great week. Thank you.